Good evening, everyone. How is everybody doing?
We're doing good. Thank you,
We are
Doctor.
doing good.
Doing
Thank
well,
you.
doctor.
Good evening. How are you?
Great.
Good
Happy
evening.
Friday to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. D.
Twice.
Happy Friday.
All right, everyone. We are getting started right on the dot. So 7 p.m. Eastern, we started Cyber Chat. Today, as folks are joining, we will let them in. I appreciate everybody's time. Dr. Emmanuel Edu, I'm going to be your facilitator for tonight's Cyber Chat as usual. And tonight we are going to be discussing a very important aspect of cybersecurity, and not just cybersecurity, but a very important aspect of business in all aspects, right? So the financial aspect, compliance, financial aspect, compliance, operational, and cyber, IT, third-party risk management plays a vital role in all aspects of business, right? And you might probably have been doing something on these lines in your company, but maybe probably you don't know that some of the activities you've been doing kind of borders on third party as well. So we are going to get started. We are allowing folks in as they are coming. So if there is a little bit of delay and slowdown, please bear with us. So we are transmitting on YouTube as well, on our YouTube channel, Eretmis Academy YouTube channel. And for everybody on here, if you are new to the family, please do also subscribe to the YouTube channel. All our cyber chats are posted on the YouTube channel, so you have access to that if you need to learn more about cybersecurity and also get familiar with the family. So you are welcome once again. Like I always say, it's Friday night. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here to share in the cybersecurity knowledge and to contribute to the discussion. So we appreciate your time and your dedication. So we are going to start, and always like we promise that you are going to gain something new from this, at least, learn something that you can use as a security professional moving forward, or even as a general practitioner anywhere in whichever industry that you find yourself in, right? So let's get started. You are welcome to Eretmis Academy. If you are new to Eretmis Academy, we are a cybersecurity training school based in New York. We train cybersecurity professionals, and we've been training cybersecurity professionals in the hundreds, right? So you are welcome. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. A little about myself. I'm a former United States Army captain. I'm a QSA, and I'm the owner of a QSA company. I'm the CEO of a QSA company based in New York, a cybersecurity consulting firm, and also the founder of Eretmis Academy. I'm a former professor at University of Maryland Global Campus, and then also CTC. And I love to teach cybersecurity and other aspects, that I'll consider myself an expert, like leadership and management as well. So tonight's cyber chat, we will be looking at cyber news for the week as usual, and then we will jump into third-party risk management, one of the hot topics within the cyberspace and also within business, the business space. So after the cyber news, we will be looking at third-party risk management case studies. So some of the breaches that bordered on third party, and then we will jump into the actual definition of third party and all the other areas of third party risk management. And then we will look at some of the duties of any cybersecurity professional who will be working specifically as a third party risk management specialist or analyst or whatever the job title might be. Okay. So our Labor Day sale is still going on. We have 2 more days to go. It ends on the 10th. So 2 days to go. So if you want to take advantage of that, 30% off on all our courses, you'll be able to take advantage of that. So we are starting with our first cyber news. And our first cyber news, unfortunately, universities around the world, if they were supposed to take a cybersecurity test, most of them will fail. And this is the reason why. So a research was conducted by a cyber news research team, and they were investigating the websites, the strength, or they were investigating weaknesses found in the website of several universities around the world. And the findings that they came up with is a bit problematic, right? But it's also a good way for these schools to, step up their game when it comes to cybersecurity. So they did a research. I don't know how many schools they looked at, but they looked at some of the big schools around the world. Some of the schools were in the top 100 list for universities around the world, and some were in the top 1,000. So it cuts across. They just pick and choose from different categories. And what they discovered was that most of the websites for these schools were not secured. And we are going to look at some of the schools and the specific issues that they had with their websites, right? So for some of the schools, and we will list also by schools as well. So you see schools by name, and these schools, their websites, some of them, they had they have millions of visitors to their websites monthly, not even yearly, right? So if their website is not secure, and you go on these websites and you're entering your personal information, chances that this information is going to get in the hands of bad malicious actors is a bit high, right? So in the case of the following schools, the leaked information, so based on the weakness that was found in their websites, if an attacker was to take advantage of that, the leaked information could have allowed the attacker to totally take over their websites, right, and run the website as if they were the owners of the school. And the list of the schools are, what we have on here. So some big names in the university arena, right? Now, the next list that we are going to look at, if these schools also, if attackers had their hands on, or they were able to take advantage of the vulnerabilities that were discovered, they could have also taken over their website, not just taken over their website, but they could have used remote code execution exploits to be able to uncover the personal information of students and teachers, right? So those schools are listed down here, and the ones that we looked at, they also had similar vulnerabilities associated with them as well. So I think these schools are currently probably working on these vulnerabilities, but we have to take security seriously. I think your website is your first point of call for any organization that want to take security seriously, because that is, what is available to the public, and anybody, bad guys and good guys, can try to exploit your website, right? So if you have such vulnerabilities that can easily be avoided in there, then it means, you are just calling for trouble. Now, the next in the cyber news is Facebook. So I'm not sure, maybe once we're done with this, some folks on here can speak to this, but Facebook, like we all know, there are some fake accounts on Facebook, fake user accounts on Facebook. And what Facebook is trying to do to combat this is to try to identify some of these fake accounts and delete them, right? And in doing that, sometimes, normal folks like yourself and myself, we find ourselves on the wrong side, because they might delete our account by accident, thinking it's a fake account, but it's not a fake account, right? And if you try to reach out for help for them to reinstate your account, it becomes a bit problematic, and you have to wait, with no support in sight. So, and this is due to the fact that from 2017 till date, Facebook has deleted almost 27 billion fake accounts, right? That is almost like 3.5 times the total population of everybody on Earth, right? So people continue to create fake Facebook accounts for different purposes, mostly for malicious purposes and to scam people and the rest. But Facebook is trying to stay ahead of that, and they are continuously deleting, sometimes in the tunes of 100 millions quarterly. So every quarter, they delete over millions of accounts from their Facebook platform, right? So if you find yourself to be one of the unfortunate people whose account gets disabled or deleted for some reason, just be patient, try to work with them. Maybe if you keep persistent, they might, open your account back for you. But it is due to so many fake accounts that are being created by malicious actors and people who want to use it to scam and the rest, right? So this was also one of the popular items in the cyber news this week. So we are looking at this also as well. And almost everybody has Facebook as well. So this was something that we thought it wise to share with everybody on here, right? So if anybody has any, maybe if you have encountered this previously, you know, Facebook probably disabled or deleted your account, maybe you can raise your virtual hand, 2 or 3 people, and then we move on to third-party risk management for tonight. All right, so maybe we'll put that on hold for now. We are going to move straight into third-party risk management, and this is how we are going to look at it. So why is third-party risk management even important? We are going to look at why, and we are going to build a case of why third-party risk management is important. So we are going to look at a first case study. We are looking at 2 case studies, right? Our first case study is Target. So Target was breached, or they encountered a breach in 2013, right? And what happened, you know, during this breach, and what are some of the things that led to it? We are going to look at all that, and that has a twist to third-party risk management and also to PCI DSS. But we are going to look at this third-party risk management tonight. So let's look at the background story. What happened? So Target, everybody knows Target. If you're not familiar with Target because you're not in the States, Target is one of the largest retail stores in the United States, and they suffered a huge, massive data breach. Target was one of the reasons why cybersecurity kind of just skyrocketed, and everybody was chasing cybersecurity professionals to come and help them in their companies. Target was one of those, like one of the reasons, because their breach was huge, and there was nothing similar to that until that happened, right? So it was big within the business community. So Target suffered a breach during the holiday season in 2013, and this resulted in the financial and personal information of approximately over 40 million customers were exposed, you know, so attackers were able to get their hands on it. And then also later on, as the story was developing, we got to know that over 70 million customer records with their personal details were also compromised. So this was huge, almost 110 million customer information, financial information, and personal PII information was compromised. So if you're a company of this magnitude, or like a company of this high standard like Target, you don't want to be in the news for this. And what was the reason for this, or what caused the breach? What led to the attackers being successful with this type of attack? So the cause of the breach was that when an investigation was done, the attack originated from one of the keyword here, one of the third-party companies that Target was working with, right? Third-party HVAC vendor called Fazio. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right. So Fazio was one of the third-party vendors that Target was working with, and they were handling the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system for Target, right? So the attackers, they were able to breach Fazio's network, and they were able to capture credentials from there, and then they were able to jump onto Target, right? So the attackers, they first breached the system for the vendor, and then from there, they leveraged the network access that the vendor had, and they were able to infiltrate into Target's enterprise infrastructure, right? So we are going to look at it, like specifics of what happened. So Fazio, they got compromised through a malware-laced phishing attack, phishing email scam, right? So somebody probably in the Fazio's company clicked on an email, a phishing email that had a malware laced together with that email, right? With that phishing email, and when they clicked on it, the attackers were able to steal login credentials for Target's network, because these folks were the company in charge of the HVAC system, and for them to be able to effectively control the HVAC system, they need access to Target's network. So they breached this company because somebody fell for a phishing attack, and through that they were able to capture login credentials, and they used the login credentials to gain access into Target's network. And guess what they did? Once they were on Target's network, they installed a malware on the POS system for Target, and what they were doing was just collecting credit card and debit card information. As customers were swiping, it was coming to them as well. So they stole a lot of credit card and debit card information, which borders on PCI DSS, but our focus tonight is on third-party risk management, right? So now, what are some of the issues, that we can come up from this story or from this breach? So there were some poor third-party risk management indicators in this whole situation, right? And some of which we've shortlisted here. So lack of strong authentication protocols. The vendor had a simpler, authentication methods. So from moving from the vendor's network onto Tiger's network, the type of authentication that they were using was very, probably they were just using one-factor authentication, probably just username and password, right? Which was problematic. If they had like a multi-factor authentication in place or dual-factor authentication in place, although the attackers were able to steal the credentials, i.e. your username and password, they would have still needed to, authenticate through a different factor of authentication, right? So either something you have, something you are, something you know, right? Or somewhere you are to be able to get on there. So either after entering your username and password, you were required to probably use your fingerprint, or they were going to send a PIN to your phone for you to put in the PIN. None of that was in place. It was just username and password. So if somebody had your username and password, like in this case, they could easily get onto Target's network. So that was one problem. Now, inadequate continuous monitoring. So the malware that was planted on both Physio's network and then also on Target's POS systems, that malware went undetected for a considerable period of time, right? So that shows lack of robust real-time monitoring, right, of their systems, and alerting systems, systems were not also in place to let them know that, hey, there has been an intrusion, for them to react to it and spin up their incident response and take care of that, right? So that was also one problem that was discovered. Now, vendor access control. Now, the third-party company, Physio, they had too much privilege on Target's network than they were supposed to have for the performance of their duties, right? So if anybody can, just off your head, what are they violating here? What principle are they violating here? I mean, it's right here on the screen, but what principle are they violating? Obviously, principle of least privilege, right? So Target gave them too much privilege. That is why when an attacker got onto their network and they were able to get onto Target's network, the attacker had assumed the privileges that whoever's account they use on Physio had on Target's network, right? So it's like they were able to break into your house through your friend's house because your friend has access to your house. So they stole the key from your friend and they use that key to open, your house. They got access to your house, but then that key could open every door within your house, which is bad, right? So if that key could just open the front door, but then all other doors were closed, they would have been in your house, but they still couldn't have done anything, right? So the harm would have been minimized, right? So giving people too much access on your network than they need to perform their duties is a violation of principle of least privilege. So that was also violated, and that was one of the reasons why this attack was successful. Now, the last item that we are going to look at is insufficient network segmentation, right? So if you are new to cybersecurity, you are new to IT, don't get carried away. These are all big terms that really, if you break it down, is not as difficult or as technical as it might seem, right? So insufficient network segmentation. Network segmentation simply is breaking down the network into smaller chunks, right? So, and all the smaller chunks of network within the bigger network, they all have their own security controls. So you cannot easily move from one smaller network to the other without having to authenticate or having to prove or provide the credentials that is needed to have that access, right? So they didn't have sufficient, Target didn't have sufficient network segmentation. If they did, the attackers couldn't have just, laterally move around on their network that easy, right? So that was also another problem, or some of the poor indicators, TPRM indicators that facilitated this type of attack, or that allowed attackers to easily go through this and execute this form of attack, right? So with that being said, we are going to move on to the next case study. And then after the next case study, we are going to start building our case. But now I think it's very obvious. Everybody is getting an idea of why third-party risk management is important. And we are going to look at the steps involved in third-party risk management, right? So the next case study is, okay, let's look at the aftermath first, and then we'll look at the next case study. So whenever there is a breach, there are a lot of problems that are going to follow, right? An example of such problems is what we are going to be looking at. So if your company encounters a breach, there's a financial impact. For small to medium companies, statistically, small to medium companies that experience a data breach, they tend to go out of 68% of them will go out of business, I think, in the next year, right? So 68% of small to medium companies that encounter data breaches, they go out of business within 12 months. Because of the financial impact, right? So for a company like Target, they can, still stand on their feet, but the monies that they lost due to this was no small money. So they lost all the expenses that were related to the data breach. It were in the tunes of 200 million for banks and credit unions associated with Target. And then for Target as a company, they lost over $162 million. In 2013 and 2014. That was no small money. Even today is no small money, right? So if they had to invest in cybersecurity professionals, or more cybersecurity professionals, and invest in more cybersecurity resources to help prevent this from happening, for example, invest in maybe more PCI DSS specialists and TPRM specialists, and just a whole army of cybersecurity professionals, I don't think it was going to cost them $162 million, even in the next 20 years, to pay all those specialists or like cybersecurity professionals, right? So that is why cybersecurity, the pay is really up there, because if there is a breach, your pay compared to how much they are going to lose is nothing, really nothing. They could have spent $10 million to pay like 5,000 cybersecurity professionals for the next, you can do the math, maybe for the next like 5 years or 2 years or whatever. That could have probably prevented this or helped them in a way. Now, reputational damage, when you encounter this form of attack, guess what? You are going to be on cybersecurity forums like this being used for case study. Aside that, your customers, the media, stakeholders, everybody is going to be on your case, right? And your reputation, the goodwill you've built over time, is going to go down the drain. You are going to lose stocks. Your stock value is also going to go down, right? And then also specifically for Target, changing leadership. So you might think, it was a cyber breach. What has that got to do with the CEO and the COO and the rest? Well, they are in charge of the company. So overall, they're in charge of cybersecurity within the company. So if under their watch this happened, guess what? They were forced to resign. So they all top level or senior executives, almost all of them had to resign, and they had to bring new people on, right? So board of directors are just going to, give you the boots, right? So that is why management, C-suite, and everybody else, they have to take cybersecurity seriously, and all different areas within cybersecurity seriously. Now, a good thing that came out of this was enhanced security measures. So because of this, now Target, they have a more robust security posture, or they have a more robust security program going on, right? Including third-party risk management, PCI, and the rest, right? So that was an enhanced security measure, was something that was good. Now, the next case study is Home Depot. So Home Depot also just following Target in 2013, 2014, they were next they were like next in line to encounter this breach, right? And Home Depot also suffered similar fate like Target. So for Home Depot, they are one of the leading home improvement retail companies in the US. Their breach they suffered almost 56 million credit card and debit card information being lost, of their customers being stolen by attackers. And the Home Depot's breach is by far the largest data breach involving payment card systems, right? So within the PCI space, they are still holding the title. The biggest breach that borders on PCI and card payment systems is Home Depot. Like, they beat Target to it. So Target was almost 40 million at the start, and then 70 aftermath. But for them, it was like 50, and specifically, like, Target wasn't specifically 100 and something million for credit card and debit card information. It was a mixture. For Home Depot, it was 56 million credit card and debit card information that was stolen, right? So they still hold the title, and that is a bad title to hold anyway, right? And the cause of the breach was, keyword here, third-party vendors' credentials were stolen, and those credentials were used to get onto Home Depot's network. So we keep running into third-party vendors, who are, they are the cause of this, right? It was through them that the attack was successful, right? So maybe the attackers tried to breach the network for Home Depot or try to break the network for Target. They were not successful. So they looked for an easier way out. So these third-party vendors were not taking security seriously like they were supposed to, and they were able to go through these third parties and get onto the networks that they actually wanted to get on. So, and once they were able to get onto Home Depot's network, guess what they did? Same thing. They installed a custom-built malware that was designed to steal credit card and debit card information across board from the US and Canada for all Home Depot outlets that were out there, right? So the specifics, just everything that we talked about previously. The attackers acquired credentials from the third-party vendor that Target was working with, that Home Depot was working with. I'm not really sure. I don't know the specific company, so that is why that is not here. And then that they use that credential to get onto the network for Home Depot, and then they install malware on their POS devices, and they were able to steal credit card and debit card information through that, right? So this also borders on PCI, and then it also borders on third-party risk management. So what is third-party risk management? Based on everything that we've looked at, what do you think is third-party risk management? We are going to look at a very simple definition of third-party risk management, and we will look at the academic definition for third-party risk management. So when we see these two bottles, two glasses on here, right? You have the one on the left, the one on the right. Now, this one obviously looks like a dirty water. So it is going to be the dirty water. This looks clean. So this is the clean water. Now, what do you think is going to happen if we take some of the water on here and we put it in here, right? Is this water still going to maintain the purity and the cleanliness that it has? Obviously not, right? So with third-party risk management, this is the idea behind it. Your company, we assume you are working hard to keep it clean. So your company is the clean glass. The other company you want to work with in any shape or form, whether they are providing consulting services, they are providing software as a service to your company, they are providing hardware, software, they are the third party. We call them the third party service provider or the third party company. So the third party company is this company, right? It's this glass right here. If the third party companies, and the water in here is going to be your security posture. So if your security posture is clean, so you have a good security posture, you are doing everything right. If that of the third party company is not as clean as yours, and you want to mix, you want to do anything with them, guess what? Very soon you're also going to look like this. And attackers can easily, because now you are looking like this, you are going to attract attackers very easily, right? So Olan, I'm going to get with you as we are moving along. So this is the idea behind, if you didn't get anything from today's meeting, this is the idea behind third-party risk management. If you are clean, you want to work with somebody who is as clean as you or even cleaner than you, right? So clean here, we are referring to when we look at third-party risk management in general, we are looking at clean financially, cybersecurity, IT-wise, operationally, and everything, right? If you are looking specifically at cybersecurity, then clean when it comes to cybersecurity, right? So you have a very strong security posture that attackers cannot easily, break into your network, and then in so doing, get to us, right? So this is very simple illustration for you to understand what the whole idea behind third-party risk management. So companies today, there's no single company that works alone. You cannot function as a company without using products, services from other companies, right? And the other companies that you are using their services and products, they are considered a third-party company. So all companies rely heavily on other companies to provide services to them. And because of that, we have to take third-party risk management seriously, because every company that you are going to work with, they have some risks that they are going to introduce into the collaboration that you are going to have. You also have you as a company who's trying to work with somebody else, you also have your own residual risks that you're also going to introduce, right? So how we manage that type of risks to make sure we are at a very good level when it comes to risks is what we do for third-party risk management, right? So for the areas of your company that third-party risks might affect, or that you have to look at when it comes to third-party risks, is the following. So the procurement and supply chain, those areas you have to pay attention when it comes to, and this is generally for third-party risk management, not just cybersecurity. So general third-party risk management is what we are looking at, and then we'll go specifically into cybersecurity, right? So procurement and supply, there are some challenges when it comes to procurement and supply. You want to make sure that the products that you are getting, that your company is getting from another company, is safe, in terms of quality, is good quality, and then there are no potential disruptions to the operations of your company, right? Now, the next area that will be affected by third-party risks is IT and cybersecurity. So for IT and cybersecurity, from the case studies that we looked at, we don't even have to speak more on that. It has, the company that you're going to work with has an impact on your security posture as a company, right? So whether it comes to your software, hardware, there is an impact, right? That can lead to a data breach. Now, the financial and payment aspect. So you also want to make sure that activities that are fraudulent in nature, you're also doing away with that, and you are mitigating that risk. So that will be on the financial risk aspect. So when it comes to third party, we do third party in all these areas. But for us as security professionals, our focus is mainly on the security side. So within your company, for third party risk management, the finance folks are doing their own, legal folks are doing their own, operational infrastructure are doing their own. But for us as security professionals, our focus mainly is on the IT and cybersecurity space, right? So when it comes to legal and compliance, yes, it plays a key role. Third-party companies can affect the legal and compliance aspect of your operations. And an example, if there are international regulations or regional regulations that they have to follow, right? So example, when, I'll speak to cybersecurity and IT because that is our field. So if your company has to stay in compliance with any framework like PCI, DSS, or HIPAA, right? And the data that the third-party company is going to handle for your company, that data has to be handled under PCI DSS standards or HIPAA standards. Then you have to make sure the third-party handling those data, they are in compliance with that standard, right? So that borders on legal and compliance, and also other compliance and legal regulations or any laws that might apply. And when it comes to operational and operations and infrastructure, that also, your company also faces some level of risks being introduced with from the other company that you want to work with, right? So we are going to move forward and look at, this is a summary of everything that we talked about. So we'll move forward to some of the processes or the processes involved in third-party risk management. Now, these processes are generalized for all areas, whether you are in the financial side or you are in the cybersecurity side. So when it comes to third-party risk management, first thing that everybody will do within the steps is to do risk assessment. right? So risk assessment, we identify the third parties that we are working with first, and then we categorize the potential risks associated with those companies that we are going to work with, right? So your company will determine the risk appetite or the risk level that is acceptable, right? So you go through a whole list of things in terms of questionnaires and interviews and stuff to determine and to ask for certain documents and the rest. And your company will set the threshold for the risks that your company is going to accept. Every company determines its own risk appetite or risk acceptance level, right? So what I mean by risk appetite is this: in cybersecurity or in business in general, there can never be zero risks. There's always going to be some risks, regardless of whatever measures we put in place. But the goal is to reduce risks to a minimal level, right? To reduce it to an acceptable level. So an acceptable level is the risk which, if it occurs, is not going to cause a great impact or a grave impact to your company, right? So if it occurs, well, oh, well, it did happen, but it's not going to derail your company's operations, right? So that is an acceptable level, or that is a good risk appetite for the company. Every company determines that, right? What will be a good risk appetite for Amazon will probably kill another company, right? That same level of risk will put another company out of business, right? So it depends on, the company, what they are doing, and then also how much they have, how strong their base is and all that, right? So when it comes to risk assessment, a lot goes into it. So we'll move into due diligence and selection. So by engaging and verifying the third-party risks, the third-party company's credentials and financial health and track record, we will be able to confirm that we've actually done our due diligence, and then we'll be able to go ahead and select or shortlist the companies that we want to work with, right? And then contract negotiation. So once we've selected the company, we have to sign a contract with them, obviously, to be able to start working. Now, when it comes to the contract negotiation, we have to make sure that there are clauses in there that speaks to the mitigation of risks, and also there is an exit strategy. So if the company is not, able to pull their weight when it comes to what they are supposed to deliver, how are we going to get out of it? Or if they are not managing risks like they're supposed to be managing, how are we going to get out of the contract, right? And then we have monitoring and oversight. So we have to continuously be monitoring third-party companies' performance, and also conducting a review and annual audits. Not if necessary, we have to conduct annual audits on their security posture, on their financial. So this is general, so I'm speaking for everything, right? Security posture, financials, and everything. So every year they have to recertify with us, or recertify with our third-party risk management folks. So they will submit the documents for that has to do with compliance and other documents that we might request. We will request those documents, and they have to submit those documents. If we have issues with any of those documents, they have to resubmit, or they have to rectify any issues or problems. So if they have to stay in compliance with any regulatory regulation, like any regulations or laws or mandatory industry standards, and they don't, we have to hold them to it, right? So all companies want to keep their business, so they all try to do well when it comes to maintaining a good third-party risk management, with relationship with the company they are working with, right? So this is a summary of everything that we talked about. So when it comes to the risk assessment, identifying the third parties and their respective roles, assessing potential risks associated with the third parties. When it comes to our due diligence and our selection, verifying the third party track record, reputation, and evaluating their financials. So this is for general third party risk management. And then for contract negotiations, we have to review the contract, make sure that there's a clause in there on how they are going to mitigate risks, and then also an exit strategy for non-performance. So if they don't, hold their side of the bargain, how are we going to get out of that, right? And then monitoring and oversight, we have to make sure that we are continuously monitoring and we are performing reviews and audits, because a company can be, when we are looking at it just from the security standpoint, a company can be in compliance, they can be good to go, that doesn't mean in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months, they are still going to be in compliance with all regulations that they have to be in compliance with. Right? Maybe they failed one of their audits. So if we don't ask for them to provide that every 12 months or every now and then, we wouldn't know that they are struggling in those areas. And we might think they are good. Next, they get breached, and then we also get breached, right? So we have to continuously monitor and make sure they are good to go. So it's not because they passed our first initial risk management and risk assessment, third-party risk assessment, that means they are good for life. It doesn't work that way. So we have to continuously make sure that they are doing everything that they are supposed to be doing. So these are some of the best practices in third-party risk management. So within your companies, we have to centralize the third-party risk management processes, right? For better oversight, we have to continuously train and ensure that our employees are aware of the risks associated with third parties. So we have to, keep an eye out for anything from third-party companies, and then also make sure they are continuously in compliance with our third-party risk management program that we have in our company. And then we also, with the aid of technology now, we are able to kind of have a better oversight of third-party risk management now. And then we also have to be open and transparent with our third parties. This will help us to really identify any problems and, have a candid conversation with them if they are having any issues or problems, right? So with that, we are going to eventually move into what we do in third-party risk management when it comes to cybersecurity. But in today's day and age, like we said from the beginning, no company can work in isolation. We have to work with third-party companies. So we have to make sure that we are proactive about third-party risk management. We shouldn't wait for something to happen, like for targets case, and then come up from some lessons learned and use that to improve our security posture. That shouldn't be the case. Right? So we are going to move into the duties of third-party risk management specialists. And we have some of our students who have been working in third-party risk management for a while on here. So once we look at some of the duties, we will allow them to talk us through what are some of their daily, what they do on daily basis as a third-party risk management person within their company, right? So now we are going to specifically look at third-party risk management as it pertains to cybersecurity, or on the cybersecurity side, the areas that third-party will affect within our company. IT and cybersecurity is one. And we are going to look specifically at some of the duties that we have to perform when it comes to third-party risk management. So as a third-party risk management professional within your company, or if you've been assigned that role, what are some of the things that you're going to be doing? First, risk management, we saw that already as one of the broad, items that we have to complete on the list of third-party risk management activities. So when it comes to risk management for you as an individual in there, identifying and categorizing your third-party companies based on their inherent risks that they might introduce to your company, right? So just talking a little bit about risks, inherent risks and residual risks. Anybody in the audience who can break this down? The difference between inherent risks and residual risks, although residual risks is not on here. Any cybersecurity folks on here who want to chime in on this one before we move on?
I think I will take it up.
Okay, go ahead, Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so inherent risk is the risk that is naturally associated with an asset or a product. And the residual risk is the minimum risk that is left that has not been able to be mitigated or which is accepted by the process owner. In other words, it is the risk that it tolerates as something that when it happens, it will not be able to affect the business so much. That is the residual risk. Okay. And the inherent risk is the risk that is naturally associated with the business process. For instance, if you are into merchandise, stealing of small merchandise of high value is high. So that product is has an inherent rate of theft. when you are into driving, or when you are into development of vehicles, maybe the parts that are associated with high value parts can easily be taken away by staff. So inherent risk is associated with a particular business, which is likely to cause a problem for the business by nature of the industry they are operating in.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Johnson?
contribute?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Johnson, go ahead,
Johnson.
and then
all right.
Yes.
So if you talk of the inherent risk, is the risk that the third party can pose to us when no control is implemented, and the residual risk is the risk after control implementation, and the remaining risk, that's the residual risk. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think somebody else wanted to contribute.
Yes, can I contribute?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, inherent risk is a risk the third party is bringing with them when they come in. Is like the last speaker said, is the risk without control. And residual risk is risk that is remaining after all controls have been implemented.
Okay, great. Thanks. Anybody else? Olan, go ahead.
Yes, I believe inherent risk is not limited to third party alone. To my own understanding, inherent risk could be said to be a risk before that is in existence before control is being put into it, and the residual is the remaining that after you have put in the control to mitigate it, the remaining that you can still accept can be said to be the residual.
Yes.
Thank you. I just said it. I was going to say the risk you accept to operate your system is residual risk.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. So we're going to move on, just like what Olan said. So inherent risks is not only limited to third parties, right? Even you, the company that you are going to work with, a third party, you'll have your own inherent risks, right? So inherent risks, everybody has it. All companies, everybody has some level of inherent risks, right? So it is the risks that we have without any controls in place. And when we do have controls in place, we reduce it to an acceptable level. So everything that is left after the controls, that is what we refer to as residual risks. Go ahead, Amit.
Yes, Doc, I wanted to ask something based on the explanation they gave. Would it be fair to then assume that residual risks would be the same as risk appetite?
So your risk appetite is just the level of risk that you want to accept, right? So residual risks, you can't really do anything about it. When everything has been, you've tried, you've put in place everything that you can put in place, you've reduced risks to a point where you can't do anything about the threats, then whatever is left is the residual risks, right? So residual risks, we will say, kind of forms the baseline of your risk appetites, because that you can't do anything about it. Now, you can also accept some risks even above your residual risks, right? So residual risks will not necessarily just be equal to your risk appetite. So your risk appetite would obviously start with residual risks because you can't do anything about it, right? But you can also choose to accept some level of risks, and then that together with your residual risks will kind of form your risks, will be the level that we will consider to be your risk appetite. Go ahead, Olan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to add that the word inherent, as it applies, that is something that is in there before. Inherent, that is in there in the system or in the company before you even apply any control to mitigate it at all. And the remaining, as I said earlier on, is the residual, that is after you have applied the controls. That's just what I want to add to it. Okay, great point. So we are going to continue. So as a security professional working in the third-party risk management space, this is some of the discussions that you are going to have, but mostly this will be already established in the company if they have if their maturity level when it comes to security is high, they will have all these set up already. If not, and you are part of the group building up your
TPRM program or the cybersecurity program for the company, then you'll be involved in such discussions, right? And as part of the risk assessment, you do an assessment of the third-party risk management, the third-party company security posture, and you do that through questionnaires that you are going to. So you have your third-party risk management questionnaire that you're going to send out, and then also through interviews, and then sometimes on-site audits also as well, right? So, and mostly we rely on third-party, independent third-party audits on those companies that we want to work with, because we cannot just go to a company and ask them, hey, can we do a vulnerability scan on your network? That is not done anyway, right? But we are going to take the report of a penetration testing that an independent company did. So if that company said they were good, okay, then we will accept that they were good, right? So if the company did a PCI DSS audit on them and they passed and they have their report on compliance, we will accept that, right? But we cannot be the ones going there to test and to, you know, look at their systems directly. So through questionnaires, through interviews, looking at some of their documentation and evidence they are going to provide us, that is all part of what we do when it comes to the risk assessment aspect. And then also we determine potential risks associated with the third party based on their access to the kind of data we are going to allow them to have, and then also systems that they are going to have access to and infrastructure that they are going to have access to, right? And then we'll move into the next step, due diligence. So after doing our assessment, we have to still move into and do our due diligence. So we'll research the third-party vendors to understand the type of cybersecurity track record that they have. And most of that, we are going to get some of this information also through the assessment that we are going to do when it comes to assessing their security posture, right? And then we are going to evaluate their compliance with relevant industry standards, all that, part of which will also be done here through the questionnaire, right? So we are going to move on to policy and procedure development. So as part of your duties as a TPRM guy or girl within the company, or man or woman within the company, you are going to be either developing or helping to develop and maintain and updating third-party risk management policies and procedures within the company. So we are looking at this from both sides, right? If you are in a company and your company wants to work with another company and you are working in the third-party risk management session of your company, or you are the third-party risk management guy or girl, you are going to be doing this. Also for the company that is trying to have a contract with your company, they should also have a TPRM person or group over there that is helping or collaborating with the other TPRM groups here to work on whatever they need. Hopefully that makes sense. So on both sides, either you are the receiving end or you are the giving end. So if you are the one on the other side that you have to provide the evidence and everything, if you don't have policies, you have to be the one fixing it. If you are on the other end receiving it, you are just asking for it, right? So you're not going to be the one making policies for them. So hopefully that is clear to everybody. Now, you also have to ensure that the policies align with your organizational overall security and risk management strategy, right? So this policy development and making of policies and updating policies is also going to be part of what you have to do. Now, contract review, this is big. You are going to be reviewing contracts. So you are going to collaborate with either the legal department or the procurement department to ensure that contracts with third parties include appropriate cybersecurity clauses, right? So I think for one of our cyber chats, when Noah was on and he was giving some insight into what he does as a third-party risk management specialist, he was speaking to, I think he said, one of the contract reviews that he was doing at one of the third-party companies. In their contracts, they had access to, I think, certain types of data or certain accounts within their company, which they were not supposed to have because they were not going to use it for anything. But as part of their contract, they had access to all these resources. So he had to, bring that up, and they had to take that out of the contract, right? So that is part of the job that you are going to do, doing contract review. So as you're moving through this, one thing is going to be obviously maybe clear to a lot of people that one of the soft skills that you need for this area is attention to detail. Attention to detail paying attention to the fine print, because there's going to be a lot of document review that you are going to be doing. Chances that if you are the type who just overlook stuff and you have read things, you don't read the whole entire document, you wouldn't be able to function effectively here. You might be, going through the motions of working, but you'll be missing a lot. You don't want to be the professional working in this field and something goes wrong and they will be able to track it and say, oh, you didn't review this well, or you didn't look at this well, right? So attention to detail is key here, right? So as part of the contract review, you also have to ensure that contracts have stipulations for regular cybersecurity audits, incident response obligations, and data protection measures, right? So, and then also, I think we will look at continuous monitoring. So that is also kind of part of the contract review that you are going to do here. So continuous monitoring, next one. So continuous monitoring, we have to continuously monitor, the security posture of these companies. And how we do that is making sure that everything that we got at the beginning, before we allow them to work with us, we have to go back to that and make sure they are maintaining, those. So if they gave us some compliance reports that were for this year, next year, when, within the 12 months period, we have to ask them to bring a new one to replace the old ones that they had. That will let us know that they actually passed their last 12 months audits or they didn't, right? So continuous monitoring will also help us to ensure that we are keeping our fingers on their pulse to make sure that, everything is going fine, right? And then we'll move into incident management. Key. Incident management is very key. So from the case studies that we looked at, if the two companies or the two third-party companies that were breached first before the main companies, Target and Home Depot, were breached, if they had a good incident response program in place, they could have probably caught or handled the incidents before it even got to their companies that they were working for, right? So incident response management or incident management is key. Every company is going to get breached at a point in time, right? It's a matter of when every company will get breached. Now, the impact of the breach on your company will partly be based on your company's incident response program that you have in place. If you have a very good incident response program in place, you can easily bounce back from whatever attack. And, it might look like nothing happened. If you don't have anything in place, a very simple attack will, cause a grave impact on the operations of the company, right? So when we do third-party risk management, this is also one area that we look at keenly. So collaborating with incident response teams to manage and mitigate any security incidents related to third parties, and then also ensuring that third parties, they have their own incident response programs in place that they will be able to mitigate any incidents that they might encounter themselves. Now, awareness and training. So we cannot take away training because when we look at security, we always look at it in three lenses. Anybody want to help me out here? At least I know I have some folks who, pay attention to like some of these things. So when we are looking at or addressing any security problem, we look at it from three main lenses. Anybody want to help us here before I build my case on training and awareness?
People, processes, and technology.
Yes. Thank you, Malachi. So every discussion in security, Olan, go ahead. I think Malachi beat you.
Yeah, he said it exactly. That's what I want to say too.
Okay, so yeah, what I always encourage everybody to have at the back of your mind, whatever problem or issues that you come into contact with in cybersecurity, if you have to solve it, look at the problem from the people, processes, and technology lenses, right? Now, when it comes to people, processes, and technology, out of the three ways or out of the three areas that security will that we function in when it comes to security, people are the most problematic. Now, if you paid attention to the case study, there was the initial entry was through what? A phishing attack. And who will fall victim to a phishing attack? People, processes, or technology? Obviously, people, right? You cannot trick a server to click on anything. You cannot trick processes, okay, to click on anything. Now, people are curious. People are greedy. People don't pay attention. People, I mean, everything is, all the problems and all the good things are from the people side, right? So people were the ones who clicked on the phishing attack. So you think if this company was taking training and awareness seriously, security awareness training and security awareness seriously, and they were conducting security awareness training monthly or so for their employees, chances that somebody would have clicked on such a phishing email would have been way less than probably it was when the person clicked on it, right? And that just one click led to $200 million in damages and $200 million in 160 million in cost, right? So when it comes to training and awareness, most companies overlook it and they kind of because they are all biased when it comes to people, processes, and technology. We all focus on the technology aspect. Let's get the new top of the line firewall. Let's get the new SIM tool. Let's get the new, all that is good, but you can have the best firewall ever. If somebody just click on a silly phishing email, your whole infrastructure is coming down, right? So people, processes, technology, people are the most problematic. So we have to focus and invest more when it comes to security awareness training, right? So Lumen, I'll get to you here shortly. So with that being said, we have to conduct awareness program for internal stakeholders and also for our third-party companies. We have to ask them, as part of our questionnaire, what they have in place for training and awareness, right? And as we offer guidance, as we train folks within our company and also for the third party, if they are doing the same, we are ahead of, we are staying ahead of attackers, right? Because obviously we are not going to fall for silly phishing emails that otherwise people will just click on, and that will cause so much problems, right? So we will move into the reporting aspect of our duties. So with the reporting aspect, we have to provide a regular reports to our management on third-party risk management on third-party risk assessment that we did for the third-party companies that we want to work with, right? And mostly this will be part of what the security folks will present. And then mostly you shortlist maybe 2 or 3. If we have to choose a company to work with, probably we are looking for a SIM tool, or we are looking to buy some computers or servers. We will come up with at least 2 or 3 companies, do a third-party risk management when it comes to cybersecurity on them, and then present a report to management, because management are the ones who are going to make the financial decision, right? So the finance folks are also going to look into these companies and make sure that on the financial side, their third-party risk management is also good, and everybody else is going to do DS, and then we will eventually present these companies and management to choose one. So we also have to update senior leaders on high risk findings on third-party companies that we might be working with, right? So if all of a sudden you are working with Lumen LLC, they are all good, and then as we are doing our continuous monitoring for them, when we ask them to submit their report on compliance and others documents, now everything that they are submitting, they fail their audits, their SOC 2 audits, they fail PCI, they fail this. Now they are high risk. We have to let somebody in top management know, hey, we might probably look into dropping this company very soon, right? Because then we might just be calling for trouble if we still maintain it, right? So we are going to move on. So reporting, and then also stakeholder collaboration. This, you'll be doing this in all the other areas that we looked at. You are not going to be working in a vacuum. You'll be working with IT, legal, procurement, everybody else, right? So you are going to collaborate with everybody, and you are going to collaborate with folks from the other companies that you want to work with, and staying updated. So as security professionals in this area, we have to make sure that we are staying abreast with emerging cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities, and also all best practices right? So if there are any industry regulations and compliance standards that we have to stay in compliance with, or our third party has to stay in compliance with, we have to make sure we are up to date on those standards. If there are any changes or any updates, we are tracking all that as well, right? And we have to be engaged in forums and groups like this to help stay abreast with best practices in the third-party risk management area. And then tools and solutions. Now there are some really cool tools that we can use to help monitor third-party activities. So with that being said, we are going to wrap it up. And then I'm going to open the floor for, I think I saw Noah and Michael and, you know, some folks. Ruth also works in third party here, so they can give us a rundown on what they do on daily basis, some of the tools that they use and stuff like that. Now for us, if you want to work, so before I even get to this point, so when it comes to third party risk management, right, it's a field that is like a very good field in cybersecurity as well. Now, and like I always say, we have students who are working in third party. Our training when it comes to, if you are starting off in cybersecurity, starting from zero, you know, the training that we give you in the entry-level course and the internship, we are training you to be dynamic. You can work in third party, you can work in auditing, you can work in all areas, because we are giving you the foundation, right? So we have students who are moving from, you know, entry-level, working in some working in third party, some working in auditing, PCI area, and the rest, right? Some working in RMF and the rest. So when it comes to third party, what I will advise everybody is, even if you are looking into, you know, specializing specifically in third party, is good, but you have to have a foundation in cybersecurity, right? Everything that we looked at, you cannot just be doing all that if you don't understand cybersecurity, right? So for a career path for us, the foundation that you need to be able to work in most of entry-level, intermediate-level roles, you can take the cybersecurity entry-level course, hands-on training, internship, and you should be good, right? So with that being said, our Labor Day is still on. Labor Day is still 30% off on all our courses. You can go in there and use the Labor 23 coupon code. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, I don't know if Noah is still on here, but Michael or Noah, any one of you can take the floor and walk us through what you do on a daily basis as a third party.
All right, I'm here, Doctor.
Yes, go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. Although I'm driving, but hopefully the noise is not too much. So about the third-party risk assessment, it's part of what I do on a daily basis, because I work with different vendors in onboarding new vendors into our company. So like Doctor said, we work with the GRC team, we work with the procurement team, we work with the IT team in order to ensure that all of this goes out successfully. And basically what we're looking at is, if just in case any third party is exposed, so we want to look at the type of data that we share with them, how sensitive these data, most of these data are, and if it's something that we need to reach out to our client, I mean our own client, to notify them in regards to this breach, or if not. So we want to look at all of that. And from there, we could determine how serious the risk is and how exposed we are to this risk, I mean, as a whole enterprise. So it's a collaborative thing that has to happen between all of the team, not just by the cybersecurity team, but our own part is to make sure that we're looking at how these two, as a cybersecurity guy, analyst, we're looking at how these two or how this vendor integrate with our system, and how we would disconnect this integration, the steps that we need to take in order to disconnect this integration that is already in place. So we are responsible for looking at that, and we are doing that by working alongside with the DevOps team or the engineering team in order to make this process successfully. And then we present to the stakeholders and let them be aware of what is at stake and the next step to take from there. And if in the future we decided to still work with this vendor after the remediation process, then it's left for the stakeholder to determine And then we, I mean, that's just the whole process, how it works, if I highlight it pretty well.
Okay. Thank you, Noah. And I think Ruth, also, if you can walk us through what you do on a daily basis as a third-party professional.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I work in the bank, and third-party risk management is under supply chain management. And before a third party get to the TPRM side, they have to pass through sourcing and intake. And what sourcing does, they identify qualified suppliers or third parties that can work with the bank based on the type of product or service needed. And after that, they go through an intake process where the supplier will fill out the intake form, and then the intake team reviews the information and makes determination on next steps. And from then, that's where we start working with them. And once the supplier completes the intake process, the risk analyst conduct inherent risk assessments with the relationship owner before we move on to contract execution. So the inherent risk assessment is an interview between the risk analyst and the relationship owner. And the relationship owner is just an employee of the bank responsible for relationship with the third party, including understanding, managing, and monitoring the supplier service, the product, and service levels. And during that meeting with the relationship owner, I'll ask the relationship owners, set of questions to determine like the raw risk, like we talked about inherent risk, and that the supplier brings before coming up with compensating controls to mitigate those risks. So if they have like access to protected data, like someone says previously, whether it's consumer or commercial customers, we have to trigger GLBA or state data breach, that triggers compliance. If they have access to protected data. And after answering all the questions, our internal system will produce a risk score. It could be high, moderate, or moderate low. And after that meeting is complete, we then move on to the due diligence phase. And depending on the risk score, we will request policy and procedure documents to mitigate those risks. And those risks also trigger like information security, compliance, or business continuity technology, depending on the way the questions were answered. And for third parties that have moderate, high, or high risk score, require financials and insurance on top of all the other documents. We also ask if they use subcontractors. I see someone in the chat was asking about if we also perform the same due diligence for the fourth parties. We do not, but we actually just, if they have subcontractors, we see that as another risk added, right? So we ask for them to provide a vendor management policy. We don't really go through the same process with their subcontractors. We just request them to produce the policy to see how they manage their subcontractors. And for private organizations, sometimes they refuse to share financials, and because they are private, and in that case, we can either start a process of signing an NDA, or we can create a finding. And finding represents just the deficiency found in the process, and in the control environment, we didn't find all the documents we needed, so we started finding. And there are two ways to respond to findings. The first one is the relationship owner can create a remediation plan that documents the steps the supplier will take to mitigate the risk associated with the control deficiency. And the second step is the supplier is unable or unwilling to remediate, the RO or the relationship owner can request a risk acceptance with the business justification and compensating controls to be approved by senior management. And after everything is collected, passed through due diligence, and we have all the documents, then we can move to contract execution, and then after that, ongoing monitoring. And for high risk vendors, we present them to SMC. It's just a committee of the board. Based on the risk appetite, they can either approve or not approve them because they are high risk. And we also do reassessment every 18 months for suppliers with moderate or high risk. Actually, 18 months is for moderate, high, and high risk is every year, every 12 months. And we also do critical reviews. We do a lot, but that's just like in a nutshell what I do on a daily basis.
Right. Thank you, Ruth. That was really extensive. Thank you. So if there are any questions for Ruth or for Noah or for the whole presentation, you can bring it up, raise your virtual hand. But we'll go to Michael. I'm not sure if Michael is still on here. Michael also, I know, is doing something on third party as well.
Which Michael?
So you, Michael.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So in terms of third party risk management, in my role as a GRC specialist, we actually do a lot of third party risk management. So, and in terms of that, normally, so let's say if we have a new company coming on board, so if we have to onboard a new company, procurement will normally reach out to me through email and then request a risk assessment, right? So with that, whoever is the owner, so basically in procurement, we have somebody who is leading that onboarding process. So I'll reach out to that person, and we have an internal questionnaire which is sent out through our GRC tool, which is Gen GRC. So we'll send out a questionnaire, and the questionnaire basically have 2 questions, right? So first question, what kind of data is the third party going to handle for us? Question number 2, are they going to have access to our networks, right? So if the answer is no for first question, no data is going to be handled. Other question, no network access, then that means they can go ahead with the contract. There is no need for information security or GRC to get involved with any type of risk assessments, right? But if the answer to the first question is yes, this third party company is going to handle any kind of data, right? Sensitive data. So we actually have to protect health data since it's a hospital chain. So we have to do a lot with HIPAA, right? So we have to be in compliance with HIPAA. So in terms of being in compliance with HIPAA, anytime a third party has to handle our data, we have to ensure, they meet our security standards or security posture, as Dr. Lu said earlier. So in that case, if they are going to have access to our networks and handle any kind of data, then that's when I'll have to set up a third party risk assessment. So basically, I'll have to reach out to the point of contact for the other company coming on board, right? The third party company. So I'll send out a questionnaire, and that questionnaire, they'll actually have to provide me a lot of information, right? Just give me a kind of idea about their security posture, and then they have to submit normally we request for SOC 2 reports if they're in compliance with SOC 2, so SOC 2 and penetration testing. But in case they are not in compliance with SOC 2 or they don't, abide by SOC 2, whatever framework they abide by, we'll have to get a report from that framework. So it might be either PCI, ISO, so whatever framework it is, they'll have to give a specification and a report. So once I get that, I'll have to review that. And sometimes when you review it, you might find some findings, and then once you find that, you can always reach back to the point of contact of the other company coming on board, and then discuss with them. So maybe ask them, okay, so let's say this section, what was your remediation plan for this section, right? And they'll have to provide it. And one thing about my role, which makes that part a little bit easier for me, is because since it's a hospital, we have a lot of companies who actually wants to, bid for contracts with us. So most often, everything I ask for, I get it, right? I don't really have to struggle a lot to get it because all the other companies are actually trying to bid and win our contract. So that's how the third party went with us, right? So number 1, procurement reaches out. I send a questionnaire to procurement, right? 2 questions. So that's how the process works. 2 questions. Are they going to handle our data, or are they going to get access to our network? If it's no, then I give the go ahead to procurement to go ahead with the contract, right? But if in case those two questions, one answer comes back yes or both, then I have to do a risk assessment. So risk assessment, you send out a questionnaire, and then you request for SOC 2 report or penetration testing, right? And also one thing I want everybody to be aware about third-party risk management is that you always have to be aware of the security posture of the companies you are doing business with. So let's say, for example, if a company I do business with, get hacked, right? Some other companies I do business with might reach out to me to know whether that company I'm doing a business with, the hackers actually went through their systems to get on mine, right? So sometimes as a GRC person or information security analyst, you'll be have to be drafting let's say customer statements to ensure. So let's say if you are company A, right, and you work with company B, and company B gets hacked, company C might reach out to you and say, hey, we had company A get hacked, and you guys do business with company B, right? So in that case, did you guys have any issues? So that's when you have to be always careful, right? You have to draft statements to just assure your customers, hey, we know this company got hacked, but none of the hackers who got on their system were able to get on our system. So, so as far as third party goes, those are some of the things you'll be actually dealing with, right? So making sure you're on board third-party vendors and also making sure you assure your customers that everything is okay, and whenever there is a hack, you have to be able to demonstrate or ensure to them that, hey, even though this company I work with got hacked, everything is okay on my side. So I think as far as third-party goes, these are some of the things I do. So if anybody has any questions, you can always ask or post it to the chat. So I think that's it for now.
All right, Michael, thank you. So we'll go with Sydney and then Johnson. And I think if I missed anybody else, third party, you can please raise your virtual hand and also give your insights. Sydney, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Du. Mike, thank you for that input. I had an interview on Wednesday with a consulting firm, and it was on third-party risk management. They had a couple of questions they asked me because I was prepared as a third-party risk analyst, from the receiving end. But the questions were coming like you needed it the other way around. So what I did was I tried to put myself in a situation I have to be assessed as a vendor. And then they were asking me about reviewing the penetration testing results and all that. And then I think vulnerability results, stuff like that. And he went a little bit technical with the controls, the protocols and all that. So now I lost it there. So when you are on the receiving end, it's kind of easier from what we're hearing. Have you had an opportunity to be assessed, and how do you handle that? I know they had asked me about having to assess third party from the cloud provider standpoint, right? And what I said was having to assess probably their parameters and where they are hosting the servers and all that, the data center. So I would want you to help me here and probably explain if you have been on the other side, where you have to be assessed as a vendor before.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Michael, hold on. So before Michael goes, right, just this goes to speak to what I was talking about.
Okay.
So most of the times people get in that space of, I'm just going to study third party and go work in third party. I'm just going to study GRC and just go work in GRC because I don't want to be technical. What they forget is in cybersecurity, everything is everything. If you're in third party, you have to understand networking, you have to understand identity and access management, you have to understand. So during interviews, or even for Michael, even if you are the receiving end or you are the end that is being provided the document, that's at the end that is doing the assessment. When somebody gives you their SOC 2 report, if you've never seen a SOC 2 report before, you don't understand what is in there, you are not going to be effective, right? You are going to say they are good, even if they are bad. If you've never seen a penetration testing report, you don't know if there's a scan, a vulnerability scan with the penetration testing report, you don't understand the ports, the protocols. You don't understand any of that, right? And you think you can just function because somebody showed you the steps in third-party risk management, so you are a full-blown third-party risk management professional, you run into issues, right? So I always encourage and I entreat everybody, get your foundation right. If your foundation is right, you can work in any area of security because every area that you're going to go to, there you are always going to encounter all areas overlap, right? If you are specifically working in, let's say you are working in compliance, all you do is you are reviewing compliance reports. You need to understand everything in security to be able to understand what is going on there. You don't have to be an expert in any of it. You don't have to be a network guru. You don't have to be a cybersecurity architect. You don't have to, but you have to understand what is going on. So if we are talking about principle of least privilege, you understand what we mean. If you are talking about layers of defense and they are talking about, okay, they didn't have a multi-factor authentication in place, you understand what they mean. What are the factors of authentication? Which ones can we implement to, be considered as a multi-factor authentication, right? So in every area, if you have a lot of gaps in your knowledge base, you are going to run into issues, right? So whether you are providing the documents to be assessed, before you even send your documents to Michael, if your company wants to work with Michael's company, you as the security professional there, you have to make sure that the documents you are sending are right. And if you don't understand, like they were done with penetration tests, they gave you the report, they have some remediations on it, you have no clue how to fix those remediations, you don't even understand those remediations that are on there. And you just send it out to people because they're asking for it. And they ask you, oh, is it these remediations, are they done? Oh, yeah, I think you have to understand that and make sure that folks who have to fix it, you don't necessarily have to be the one fixing it. If the networking folks have to, close some ports, you have to let them close it and do a risk scan and check, so you just have to understand what is going on, right? So that is just to help everybody else up on here, because people get in that space. I want the non-technical part. I just want to focus. Coding, forget about coding. When people just think coding, everything that has to do with coding is the only technical thing. No, just understanding simple concepts like defense in depth and the rest, they are all technical knowledge, right? So, and basic knowledge, basic networking knowledge, basic identity and access management knowledge, and all those, they might look basic and non-important, but it's what is going to set you apart from everybody. And you'll be able to function effectively everywhere.
I really agree. And the only part that I just quickly had to switch over to the receiving end, okay, I had to if I'm here, this is what I would do. So I just quickly reversed, and then let's pray for the last stage.
Great. So Michael, go ahead. Michael can go ahead and answer this.
Yeah, so just a little thing I wanted to add was that, that's why, we always stress about having the fundamentals before, you start jumping into all hoops and all that. So, so like with my first job, as I said, I'm actually on the giving end, right? So I'm the person requesting for that. But guess what? On the second one, I'm actually at the receiving end. So I have, constantly the product team reaching out to me because some of our vendors are requesting risk assessments on us. So I have to go in and then constantly be answering questionnaire questions, providing our SOC 2, because we are over there, we are also in compliance with SOC 2. So I have to provide our SOC 2 reports, and I have to provide our penetration testing as well. So, the most important thing is having the fundamentals. And once you have the fundamentals and the understanding, either being on the receiving or the giving end, it doesn't make that much of a difference, because the process behind it and the knowledge behind it is the same thing, right? So let's say if, as Dr. Du said, right, you just focus on one aspect, and I said, oh, okay, it's the first one, I'm just the person sending out the questionnaire or, doing the requesting, and then I just relax, and then maybe the second one, I got there, and then didn't have any knowledge and any basics and any fundamentals, then I was going to be struggling a lot, right? But before jumping into everything, I made sure my fundamentals and my knowledge were solid, right? Once you have that solid fundamentals, background and knowledge in cybersecurity, being either at the front, that's the giving end or the receiving end, it doesn't make that much of a difference, because the knowledge and the understanding behind it is basically the same thing, right? So one you are just requesting, and the other one you are the person receiving. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. The most important thing is to make sure you have your fundamentals and your background clearly outlined, and that you understand those, right? So once you have those, it doesn't matter whether you are the person requesting the risk assessment or you're the person who has to provide information for the risk assessment to be done on you. So I think that, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think that's what I can say.
It sure does. It sure does. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, great input, Mike. Before we go to Johnson, our interns who just completed the third-party risk management project, anybody on here? There should be. They just completed their third-party risk management project. I think just offhand, I'm not sure if I remember, just offhand, if I can see anybody on here. They went through the whole process. They had their reports, they did an assessment, they did their risk assessment, and they presented it, I think last week, Saturday.
Yeah, it was last week, Saturday.
Derek. Okay, Derek, so can you give us your, what you learned from that? And then also Michael, I think Michael was also in the internship. They did the third-party risk management. He was the one actually spearheading it. So when he was done and he got a job in third-party, in GRC, working on third-party, I don't think he had issues. So Derek, if you can speak to it, since you've not actually, you did it in the internship, Like, what was your exposure to the documents that were given? How did you do your assessment? And if you're in the position of Sydney, would you have been able to, easily pull that off?
Well, I would say I learned a lot from the SOC report. And then most of the questionnaires, I also learned a lot to see where the gaps are and what the vendors were unable to answer those questions, which in a real world, let's say if I'm doing the work, I'm going to have a meeting with them, kind of ask some more questions, get more artifacts to make sure that they have these controls around. On the SOC report, I also learned that they were. I work on the Splunk SOC report. I know that they were outdated. So if I was gonna deal with them, I'm gonna ask them to get me a bridge letter, or if they have an InfoSec, kind of make sure that they are current. I also learned a couple of things from there where there were a lot of gaps. When I say gaps, a lot of fundings, that there was exceptions that they need to come out with. They need to come up with something to make sure that the controls are the environment are safe. So, which definitely, if I'm in the part of where Mike is at this moment, I'm gonna have a meeting with the vendors and then the business owner, kind of the three of us will understand what we need to do about it. They have to come up with a plan to make sure that they resolve those findings. So I learned a lot of them, a lot of things up there that really helped me. That if I get into the job, I think I may be able to function very well.
Okay. Thank you for that input. I just wanted to bring that up. Johnson, go ahead, and then Olan will go. Lumen had his hand up. I'm not sure if he won't ask his question again. Go ahead, Johnson.
All right, thank you, sir. Mine is going to be question. Michael, if you can help me, why do you ask for the SOC 2 Type 2 report but not SOC 1 report? That's my first question. And number two, what are some of the tools that you use when it comes to third party? Thank you.
Okay, yes. So as we said, all companies have information security policies, right? So like whatever we ask, we don't just ask it because we want to ask it. So we have an information security policy, and then in the third party,
I think Michael is coming in broken. I'm not sure if it's my network.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so what I was saying is, so as Dr. Du has said earlier, every company, right, has an information security policy, right? So in our information security policy, when it comes to third-party risk management, we have a section for it, and it outlines what we have to write. We have to request from our third-party vendor. So part of that, we do have stated that we have to request for SOC 2 reports. So if either SOC 2 report and if they are not in compliance with SOC 2 report, then any other framework they're in compliance with, right? So that, and then I think the other question was, what tool do we use? So tool we use is Zen GRC, which is a GRC tool. So right. So, and as I always say to people, don't get too bogged down on the tools, because the tools, they can teach you those, right? So the most important thing is to understand the principles and then the fundamentals behind the processes, right? So the tools is just like driving a car. You drive a Toyota, if they give you a Nissan, you can drive it, right? So don't really focus so much on the tools, but on the processes and the fundamentals behind the processes you are trying to learn. And yes, and as I just said, we do have an information security policy, and then in those policies we have outlined the guidelines when it comes to dealing with third-party risk management. So everything you do, you don't just just do it or just make it up whilst you go. There is a security information policy for the company, and you have to follow those.
Thank you, Michael. Olan, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to ask a question regarding the Home Depot and Target that was breached. Now, when the attacker installed malware on their POS, what's the role of EMV chips on the card? Does it mean it cannot secure the card holder data. That is number one. Then number two, again, with the breach, the attackers, does it mean there is no tools that could filter some malicious email whereby people, I mean the employee this time around will not be in a high risk to be vulnerable to phishing and all that? So that's just my two questions.
Okay, so to answer that, at that point, first off, Target and the Home Depot, they were not accepting, like they didn't have any means of accepting the EMV chip type credit card, debit card. And even in the States, by that time, it wasn't that common. We were gradually catching up on, it was very common in Europe. It was introduced in Europe and, we're catching up on it. So as part of the lessons learned and what they were going to do moving forward, they started accepting or implementing the use of, they started accepting cards that had the EMV chip on there. And then also, even if that was the case, once you dip or you swipe your card, the data goes to the company. So it goes from your chip, it goes from your card, the company has the data now. So whether you have a chip on your credit card, debit card or not, once you deliver that information to the company, they are the ones who are going to keep that data, right? So it depends on how they are going to keep it. That will determine whether when they get breached or they don't get breached, your data is safe. And for the companies that fell victim to the phishing attack, now there are tools that you can use to block phishing emails and the rest. But even with those tools, they are not 100%. So some emails will get through, it will block maybe majority of it now. And at that time, those tools were not as sophisticated as today. Today we have AI, sort of twist to those tools. So they're able to do more than back in 2013, 2014, right? So even the best way to really be able to thwart the efforts of attackers when it comes to social engineering, which phishing is one, is awareness and training. You can use tools all day, but you just need that one person to, one Johnson or one Olan to click on it, and then that's it. Everything will come, or everything will just come to a standstill. So all your operations and everything is going to be disrupted. So awareness training is the best. All forms, all types is the best to counter these sort of social engineering attacks, because the goal of social engineering attacks is to trick the people aspect of security, to make them do something that they would otherwise not do. So whether you are not paying attention or you are paying attention, they will trick you to do something, right? So if you are trained to identify those, it's not easy for you to fall for those type of attacks, right? Lumen, go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Edu. I just want to emphasize on what you said before, two things. Number one, you talked about the awareness training for companies. And guess what? With my company now, we've been assessed by QSA. For example, we just found out that out of 1,000 employees, 600 people were not trained. Guess what? Are we going to submit that to the QSA? That's not possible. So, we are working on that. And number two, you mentioned about when this girl, sorry for her name, she's talking about being access, PCI. I have a little bit training from Dr. Edu, but not intense, and a little knowledge from some friends. The reason why I've been able to be in the department and no one know that I don't know anything about PCI, and my manager loves me a lot. I don't know why, but it's because my background in cybersecurity is solid because of Dr. Edu training. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The cybersecurity course, the entry-level course, is really good because it gives me an understanding of everything. So right now, I don't go to work and I'm scared, or if I don't know, I'll do research because I know where to find what I'm looking for. Example, I never seen pen testing like a result before. But when I open it, I look at it, I saw 4 positive. I learned that already. So I went into it, I look at it, my preview, okay, I got this, man. I talked to my manager about it. He too, he only been in the company for 6 months. So we all learning, so we all doing everything. So just want to tell everyone, don't just BS the basic. I don't know where you are, who you are. It doesn't matter which control, what you want to do in cybersecurity. At least the basic will help you to go anywhere, even if you don't have the, if you don't know anything, the basic will be there to support you, to give you something, to hold on to go anywhere. But, well, that's what I'm using anyway. I just want to, share that, Dr. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Lumen.
You're welcome.
And Lumen, during Lumen's internship, they came up with the best cybersecurity awareness training that I've seen so far. So I think in Lumen, this company, he can something similar, and they are going to love it. Right. All right. Tunde, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. What I want to ask is that, do you teach third-party risk management in your PCI course? And should PCI ISAs, should they know about third-party risk management? Is it integrated?
Okay. So third-party risk management is not necessarily part of PCI. It is part of PCI, but it's not, right? Just like how incident response is part of PCI, but it's not. So those areas, they are all full-blown areas on their own, right? So if you understand what you need to do in third-party, as a PCI professional within the company, you are not going to be the one necessarily doing third-party risk management stuff, or other. So you might probably your added on will be probably to help the SOC, like the SOC report when they have to go through SOC, or the SOX SOX. Sometimes they will push you into those areas because you are part of the GRC team, right? So third-party risk management itself as a course, it is like separate from PCI. But if you have a good solid background like Lumen was talking about, within third party, Michael didn't take a third party training. He took our entry level course and did the internship. In the internship, we do third party risk management. You actually do it. You're not just going to go through some training. You do it, you reach out to companies, you work on different stuff. With our last interns who just completed, we needed a tool. So they were the ones who went through, and we are the process of where we are going to sign off on one of the tools and start using it within our company. So they went through, got all the documents. Everything Michael is doing is what they did, right? Michael went through that. Lumen and the rest who've gone through the entry level, you go through almost everything. So within the entry level, during the internship, you go through incident response. You actually work in incident response. You work on third-party risk management. You do security assessment, assessing the security posture of the organization. You do a risk assessment. So you do a lot of, we expose you to a lot of the major areas in cybersecurity, right? So once you are done, you can work as a GRC specialist like Michael, or third-party risk management specialist like Noah and the rest. So you can function effectively everywhere. And even for Lumen has not taken our PCI DSS training, but he got a PCI job and is able to function there with some little help from other folks in the PCI training because he has a solid foundation, right? So for our PCI training, we don't do PCI and third party. Third party is part of their sub requirements within PCI. So we are going to talk about it and move on, but it's not a full-blown course, so we don't combine the two. Right. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
All right. George, go ahead.
Thank you for that. I wanted to say that in third party, one of the biggest headaches is people not following up when you respond to them. And I have come to realize that if the senior management is not part of it, you can, in my meetings, they call me the harasser. I'm harassing people, sending emails out, sending, they don't want to respond. So now today like this, I had to keep calling people, and they said they don't even know anything about the security aspect, the risk assessment we're going to do on those vendors. And so now I told my boss, and I documented it to cover my back. So you can have everything, but people have found out are the hardest. You follow up with them, they don't want to respond. You keep sending I keep documents in Excel sheet. I send on this date, I send on this date, and they keep bombarding us to follow up on the logs that we have to, because we have so many vendors on the logs, we have to close them to single digits, but people are not responding. So now I have to be doing so many things, calling my boss that people are not responding. So she has to go to their department heads to tell them to respond. So that's what I just want to add it. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you, George. And can you also walk us through what you do on a daily basis as a third-party person as part of GRC?
Yes, so we have a third-party vendor that does the vendor risk assessment. So before we start that, maybe a department will request an application, and so then we in the GRC will have to do a security risk assessment, and that will involve all the questions that Michael was saying. How do you store the data? Is it critical? Is it sensitive? Then once they finish asking those questions, according to HIPAA, we need a business associate agreement, and that will be taking care of procurement, legal. Then we have to follow up with, once all those, we've got the information of the vendor and whoever is the business owner of the application, we send it out to the company that does our vendor risk management. And then they would follow up, finish all the questions, and then we have to go into their portal and they will have different kinds of comments. Say this one is not using TLS 1.1. No, it's not using TLS 1.2, it's using TLS 1.1. So we have to let them make sure they use TLS 1.2 and above. We have people who just make comments like implement it instead of saying, how do you implement it? So we have various levels of questions and clarification we have to go into the portal. Once that is done, then we send it to our CIO who approves with conditions. So that's how the whole process goes for us.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And so Michael, if I remember correctly, Michael was in the internship some number of internships ago, right?
George.
George. Sorry. I meant George, not Michael.
Yes, I was with Lumen and yeah. With
okay, too. Great. Yes. So how did your third party? How did the third-party risk management projects we did, how did it help you on what you're doing now?
It's the same thing. So I'm beaming with gladness that this really has prepared me for, it's nothing new. We don't have a tool, we use Excel, but just the fact that we've learned from your program, the basics, and also doing the internship has given me the edge and the confidence to be able to attack these things without any issue. I do have problems, but just that knowledge alone helps me a lot. And so I really appreciate it. Everybody should really do. And I can say, all our breaches come from third parties. We've had 24 incidents this year, all from third parties. So third party risk management, ransomwares, you can name it. And the good thing about our vendor is they have something called a threat script, where they are able to go to the dark web and inform us on companies that have been breached. Then we have to activate an incident response. So third party is so very important. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, George. I don't know why I keep saying Michael. Thank you, George. Olan, please go ahead and ask your question. Thank you, George.
I just want to ask a question based on those that have walked us through what they do. Okay. So he made a little bit question referred to it a little. I want to ask, how heavy do they use Excel as a tool in all these that they do? That's just the question I want to ask.
Okay, so George can answer.
Yes, okay. I have not practiced Excel a lot, but I had to learn Excel on the go. My boss is also an Excel wizard. So, I also had, eventually I realized that, I have to go back and do more learn more Excel, because you come to filter, you come to using lookups, you have to do so many things to do the analysis to be able to do Excel, because we don't have any tool. So, and then we have to create legends to use a graph, reports, and all from Excel. So Excel is very important if you don't have any tool you are using. So I will speak to that. That's what I can say.
Okay, Noah and Michael.
Okay, let them go ahead. Let them go ahead. I just want to ask, so in other words, you can use some tools outside the Excel.
It would depend on the company. It would depend on the company.
So I think Michael, in Michael's company, he's using Zen GRC.
Yes. So I currently use Zen GRC, but like I've been preaching this for quite a while, right? So most people try to focus on tools, cybersecurity tools, and as you know, Dr. Edu can even testify that most people on the call can say, I always preach Excel, guys. Like Excel is what is going to make you or break you in this industry. So forget about the cybersecurity tools. Those tools, once you get on the job, they are going to train you for those, right? By Excel, nobody's going to teach you Excel once you get on the job. They expect you to know Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So those three tools, nobody's going to have time to sit you down and walk you through. But for like the cybersecurity tools, the GRC tools, those ones, they have to definitely teach you because let's say you're coming from a different company or background, you've never used those tools before, right? So for like my daily job activities, Excel like is fundamental. Even though I do use GRC tools, without Excel, I will not be able to function, right? So when it comes to like compliance, auditing, which I'm part of the auditing team, I use Excel for all my auditing purposes, right? When it comes to third-party risk management, secure control framework, I use Excel for all those, right? So even though we have a GRC tool, the GRC tool is mostly for the automation stuff, right? But for like the manual stuff, and GRC involves a lot of manual things. Cybersecurity in general, not everything is automated. And for the aspects that are not automated, you definitely need Excel. So that's what I keep preaching. Like, everybody focus on Excel and forget about the other tools. The other tools, once you get a job and you get on the job, they're going to teach you those, but nobody is going to teach you Excel. So, and I keep preaching it. So hopefully people are going to listen. Excel is what is going to make you in this industry. So I think that's all I can say for now.
I can also attest to that. Honestly, I never used Excel a lot, but my boss is kind enough to direct me and I'm able to figure it out. But that's what I'll tell you, that you have to learn it because most of the analysis come from Excel. We don't have any GRC tool. The only thing we use is Excel. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, George. And if Noah and Ruth also have something to add when it comes to the tools they are using. Okay, Brian also put in here, he recommend Excel training. So whilst Ruth and Noah probably would give their input, we will go to Randall. Please go ahead, Mr. Harvey.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask, can you elaborate on the Excel skills? Is it like VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs, pivot tables, or something more, if you don't mind?
So just on a funny note, before you even answer that, from this question, you should know Randall is an Excel guru. So Randall, I think you are good.
Okay. I just didn't know. I just didn't know because I've worked with a person one time and they called her the Excel master. I mean, she was unbelievable, arrays and all this stuff, but I was just trying to figure it out. Okay. So
no, yeah, but like I'm going to leave it to Michael and George to answer, and maybe probably Noah in the rest. So George and Michael, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so I can take this one. I mean, if you're asking about VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, and I think you don't need anything, from me, basically. Yeah. So if you know what VLOOKUP and Excel lookup, works in Excel, then you basically don't need that much. But yeah, but I'll say the fundamentals. I mean, talking about VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, right? Those are maybe like even too high level from somebody who doesn't have any basis in Excel. But like being able to function, with Excel when it comes to GRC or information security, just the basic things like how to filter, how to duplicate, and and how to use some of those basic formulas. So yeah, by filtering, because sometimes you get like a spreadsheet, right, with like thousands of rows, and you're looking for less than maybe just a few couple of information, right? So you can't just scroll down and be going through all those. You have to be able to filter and all that. So just the basic Excel knowledge. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel better. I was getting nervous there for a minute. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please,
All right.
Doctor,
ahead,
please, is there a way you could help your students when it comes to this Excel? Because I don't know if we have to go and learn the whole thing about Excel, or there are some particular things we need to learn in it, or there are some particular thing we need to learn in it to make us function when it comes to using it. Because why I'm asking the issue of Excel, because I've had times and again that when you go into cybersecurity as a whole, you need to be good on Excel. So that's why I'm asking that. How do you help your students that, okay, these are basically things that you need when it comes to Excel in doing your job, or we just have to go and learn everything that has to do with Excel?
Okay, so for our training, most especially when it comes to the internship, you are forced to learn Excel, because for our internship, the normal cybersecurity entry level course internship, you are going to use Excel, PowerPoint, Excel. So if you don't know how to move around in Excel, you are going to learn the fundamentals, which is for the most part all you need to be able to move within Excel, right? And even for PCI, all our in-house tools are all Excel. So you'll be forced to, learn how to use it. Now for like Excel, you can get some YouTube videos on Excel just to go through the fundamentals. You don't need to be an Excel guru, so don't be overly concerned. You don't have to be an Excel guru. You just have to be able to the fundamentals of Excel, just like how you can use Word, you can use PowerPoint. That is the same level of usage that you need for Excel, right? Now on the job, if there is more to be done, if you can move around, you can learn as you go, add a little bit to it as needed by what you are doing on the job, right? So I think with that, we are at a good stopping point. Is that good enough, Olan?
Yes, sir. I'm rest assured when you said even PCI DSS, so I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of Excel for all PCI folks who are done with the internship. Oh man, we're gonna bombard you with a lot of Excel tools. All right. So Frank, go ahead, and then we are going to wrap it up.
Yeah, Dr. Edu, I just want to chime this in. With the Excel, right? I would say I was a layman, but now I would say I'm not intermediate yet, but I'm somewhere out there a little bit. What helped me the most is don't just watch the videos on YouTube. Find a laptop, and as you watch and you practice, and that sticks better than just watching it and trying to memorize everything. It has really helped me a lot. So that's just what I want to share.
All right, Frank. All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. We are wrapping up for tonight. I appreciate everybody's time. We will be meeting again next week for Cyber Chat. And we are going to come up with another topic similar to this one. So we are now going to dive into the different areas of cybersecurity, and we are going to treat all those and bring some of our own who are working in those spaces to come and help us with the discussion. So it's almost 2 hours into this. I appreciate everybody's time. Our entry-level course and the rest of the training, all next week, everything is still going on. For internship, we are still running 10 for the new folks and then 11 for the seniors. We are running that as well. And our Labor Day sale ends in 2 days. So if you want to take advantage of that, you can also do. And if you need help with anything, please reach out. Our contact has been posted in there for everybody. So we appreciate everybody's time. We'll meet again next week. Have a great weekend and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Du, and everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Captain.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.